go ahead and get started with the webinar. Let me just get into full screen here so everybody can see properly. My name is Susan. As I mentioned before, I'm part of the Bluemix team. I've been with IBM a good 6 years now, and I've been with Bluemix since we first launched the product, so almost a year now, so very exciting. And what I will do today is I will just give you a quick overview about what Bluemix is, how it can help you actually achieve your business goals, and then I would like to show you a couple of quick demos within Bluemix, and that is the part where I'm very flexible. I have one application. I want to show you how to push to Bluemix, how to use the different services within it, and then if there's other interests in other areas, we're just going to go and do it however you guys want to see it. So then let's have a look at it. A very interesting thing that has happened in the IT industry recently is, as Jim Dieter said it here very precisely, is the two guys sitting in the Starbucks can have access to the same computing power as any Fortune 500 company. And that is actually accomplished by cloud computing. So the only real thing that really matters anymore is the innovation and the drive to do something new and exciting, because the resources for it is whatever you want to accomplish, the resources for it are there and they are available to you. And one of those ways those resources can be delivered to you is, of course, IBM Bluemix. So as long as you have a great idea, Bluemix is the place for you to start and to get going. First, when I started with Bluemix as well, almost a year ago now, we started out as your typical public platform as a service. What is platform as a service? So if we imagine IT as it used to be, so we have the complete stack from our networking over to the hardware, to the virtualization layer, up to the operating system, middleware, runtime, until we actually have our application running on that. That's the full stack there. And with platform as a service, everything from the networking up to the runtime, so the whole thing in the middle there, is all managed by the service provider for you, so that you don't have to worry about anything else but your code for your application and the data that the application needs. So essentially, if we go back to the slide before, it's the innovation. Or you only have to worry about the innovation, about having some cool code, some cool applications that are doing something, and everything else is being taken care of by the service provider, by IBM, for you. But what we heard from a lot of companies over the time frame was that just wasn't quite as flexible as they wanted it to be. They wanted a little bit more. So of course we listened and we gave them that little extra bit more, which meant we also moved into the infrastructure as a service layer of it, which means everything over from the networking to the hardware up to the virtualization layer is still managed by us. But you as the customer then have the option to also influence your own operating system, your middleware, your runtime, so that you just have that a layer of abstraction in there so that it's in your control. Of course, there's scenarios where you might want to be using infrastructure as a service with a virtual machine or with a Docker container. You can do that. For other application, if you want, you can use the Cloud Foundry system where we're managing everything up to the runtime for you. So that is now what Bluemix essentially is. It covers everything from the infrastructure as a service layer to the platform as a service layer. And the technologies that you can build on as a developer include Cloud Foundry, Docker containers, and OpenStack virtual machines. And then if you have a look at the bottom, we also expanded a little bit on that part, because in the beginning we were just your typical public platform as a service, which means we are working in a multi-tenant environment. For some customers, for some applications, something else was a little bit more suited. So we also have Bluemix dedicated, which means that you have your Bluemix on your dedicated environment, which is then, of course, a single tenant environment, again, within our soft layer data centers. So you're still all in IBM's hand, you're just in a single tenant environment. And then we also took it one step further, which means that you can now also deploy Bluemix in your own local data center. Of course, it's your hardware then, so you will have to manage your hardware, but IBM manages the whole stack above that, which means the virtualization layer, the operating system, the middleware, the runtime. but you have the luxury, well, luxury might not be the right word, but you have the ability for those applications where it's highly critical for you to have them in your own data center. You can do that, and you can run those applications in your own data center. So that all sounded really good, but what exactly is Bluemix? What does it do for me? I really like this one sentence which puts it very quick and precise together, which is Bluemix is an open standard cloud platform for building, running, and managing applications. So you can really see that we're covering all our bases with that. I, as a developer, I can go in there, I can build my applications there, and I can use all the tools that Bluemix gives me to help me build them, and then I can run and manage them over time. So the whole life cycle is really covered. Then we have those 6 boxes there at the bottom, so we can go a little bit deeper into each of the parts of the sentence above. Of course, you can build your apps your own way. As I said before, we don't limit you in your way of deploying your application. You can use whatever you think suits your application best. May it be Cloud Foundry, Docker containers, or OpenStack virtual machines. And Bluemix is a lot more than just the scalability that is often promoted when we're talking about cloud. So yes, of course, you can flexibly scale your applications to whatever needs you have, but we're also helping you more along the way. We help you during the development, the monitoring, the deployment, and even the logging of your application, so that the developer himself is able to run and manage the entire application and doesn't have to go back and forth between the IT admin and ask for approval, ask for more tools. He can do this all within Bluemix. And how he's able to do that is with a big catalog of services that we're offering within Bluemix. That catalog consists of 3 different kinds of services, essentially. One are our IBM services. For example, we're talking about IBM Watson services, our cloud and non-SQL databases, the DB2, a lot of the business intelligence stuff as we think about it, Cognos, SPSS, like everything that IBM does as software as a service essentially is in one way or another represented in the Bluemix catalog. So you can use that in your applications, all within Bluemix. The second category are our third-party provided services, which means if there's something that is very specialized. For example, we partnered up with Pitney Bowes because they specialized on working with GPS coordinates, and they do a lot of geocoding, reverse geocoding. So we have integrated their services into our catalog so that the developers can use Pitney Bowes services within Bluemix, and it's right there at your fingertips. And we partner with a lot of other partners there as well. For example, Twilio, SendGrid, Pitney Bowes, as I mentioned before, Blazemeter. There's a whole bunch of them, and we'll have a look a little bit more detail later on when we'll actually go through the catalog. And then the third part of the services are the open source services, because Cloud Foundry, of course, is, as I said before, an open standard project that IBM has been heavily involved with. And as any other open source project as well, there's a really dedicated developer community behind it. And they, of course, already developed a certain amount of services for Cloud Foundry, and those are also available to you within Bluemix. One of the services, like a category of services is what I would call them, that are also developed by IBM, go into our 4th box there, is that Bluemix allows you to manage and deploy hybrid applications seamlessly. So we actually give you a handful of services that will allow you to integrate with your on-premise data that you have running in your own data centers or your own local machines. So you can, of course, there establish a secure connector between your data center and your Bluemix application, so you can make sure that your data travels securely through the interwebs there and can be used in your application there. And the services we have that are really easy to use, they're straightforward, and they actually make for a very pleasant experience when you want to build hybrid applications. The other topic, of course, is security, which is always a big topic when we talk about cloud. But with Bluemix, we have the pleasure of being in the SoftLayer data centers. SoftLayer is an IBM company, and they before IBM bought them, they were probably one of the biggest players in the infrastructure as a service industry. And now, since they partnered with IBM, of course, been working with them a lot and actually even more increasing the level of security that is there, just from a physical security standpoint, and then of course IT security. So if we're talking about a cloud data center anywhere, I can guarantee you that the soft layer data centers are the most secure ones out there. And on top of that, we also provide a handful of tools that you can select out of the Bluemix catalog, which will help you to secure your application in itself, which of course means user authentication like single sign-on or other services that we offer there. And last but not least, this all comes with a very, very flexible pricing model. So if you just want to prototype a bit, want to try it out, see if it's a fit for you, you can do this absolutely free on our pay-as-you-go plans because you have a free tier in there. So you can really experiment a lot. And then once you're ready to go ahead, you then just pay for whatever you used. And of course, for bigger customers, we also offer subscription models where we're then able to play a little bit more with discounts and actually make the pricing even more attractive for the customers. So again, it all sounds very nice and very good, but why exactly should I use Bluemix? And that is a question we also asked a lot of our customers. So after they have used Bluemix, like what are the 3 things that really convinced you on Bluemix and that make you want to stay with Bluemix? And they gave us back these 3 things. And one of them is the ability to really decrease your time to market. Because with Bluemix, you're being helped during the programming part of your application. It's very easy to monitor and to deploy it. So you're able to very quickly deploy your application and bring them to the market. And therefore, it just lowers your overall cost during the building and the deploying of your application. The second one is how nicely Bluemix balances when it comes to terms of quality, security, and governance. You get all these 3 areas completely covered, but it doesn't suffer just because it's in the cloud. No, we are making sure that all the edges are covered, and we make it easy for you to make sure that all those are also there. The third point is then that how easy it is to actually connect to your on-premise or already other existing data centers that you have running. So if you, for example, you already have some servers with SoftLayer, you can easily integrate those with your Bluemix application, same as if you have databases that are critical to you in your own data center. You can easily connect to those in your application, and it just makes for a very, very nice experience. And best of all, Bluemix doesn't lock you into any certain things of any certain ways of doing things, or it doesn't dictate how you should develop your application, or it actually works with whatever you have and whatever your app wants to be. And how it does that is that we actually make sure that you have the openness and the choice that you want. And it's actually the most freedom you will probably find anywhere in the cloud. Because as we said before, when it comes to the level of infrastructure abstraction, it's up to you. If you want to use Cloud Foundry, or you want to use containers, or you want to use virtual machines, up to you, we give you the choice. The same when it comes to the location. Where do you want to deploy your application? Is it fine in a public multi-tenant environment? Then have it there. If you want a dedicated cloud, no problem. And again, also you can run it within your own data center. Your choice, whatever you need is what you will get. And of course, if we're talking to a lot of companies and they all already have developers, well, most of them will, and developers work in very specific ways. They have their own IDEs that they like to use. They use their own deployment schemas and everything. And we made sure that Bluemix gives you powerful tooling that you can use if you want to. Like we bring a whole service of DevOps tools But again, they're free to use for you if you want them, but you can also bring your own, and we're making sure that you can integrate those smoothly with Bluemix. For example, if we're talking for Eclipse, there's special plugins for Bluemix that you can install and that make it very easy for you to deploy to Bluemix. And the same, of course, goes for Urban Code and GitHub. So we want to make sure that you can continue to do the things that you want the way you want them, and then Bluemix just steps in and makes the rest of the journey that much easier. And then, of course, the choice also extends to the services. You have this giant catalog to pick from, and you can really use the services that are there, or if they're not sufficient for you, you can also feel free to create your own services and share those with the other people in your company. I myself am a very visual person, so I always like to end the presentations with a visual representation of what I was just talking about. So as we can see, this is essentially how Bluemix all comes together. At the bottom, you can see that we offer the Bluemix Public and the Bluemix Dedicated, which are all running in the IBM soft layer data centers, or you can also have Bluemix Local in your own data center. So that is pretty much the basis that we need. You need to have your Bluemix somewhere. And then on top of that, it is up to you how you want to deploy your applications, Cloud Foundry, Docker, or OpenStack. And in those applications, in your chosen deployment form, you can then use our catalog of services and add those to your applications to make sure that you're getting the best possible experience out of it. And then that all together then brings you to your own hosted applications or services. And then, of course, on the right and on the left side, we're going to make sure that you're supported and by those two pillars. And one, of course, are our DevOps tools, and the other one they are our integration and API management services, which are the secure gateways, the VPN tunnels, and of course with API management is one of our IBM tools as well that is now integrated in Bluemix, which helps you to monitor and manage your APIs within your company. So you can see who has access to what APIs, how heavily are they used, and you can just get a very good overview from there. And this slide just puts the pricing really concise back together. When you want to try out Bluemix, you get the first 30 days for free, nothing required. You just sign up, give us your email address, and you're good to go. And then you can use every service in there and just try it out. And after those 30 days are over, you still have the option to use Bluemix for free, and that is in our pay-as-you-go model, where every service has a free tier and you get a certain amount of gigabyte hours for the runtime free as well. So it's really great for prototyping and everything, so most of the time that won't cost you anything. But then, of course, once you're ready to go into production, you're then just really using for whatever you're only paying for whatever you use. And then if we're talking a little bit on a bigger scale, we of course have the options of subscriptions where we can then give you a little bit of discounts. And in terms, and this all comes at a self-service basis. So if you want to start Bluemix trial at 3 a.m. in the morning, absolutely no problem. You just go to bluemix.net and you get started. And it's the same way you can just put in your credit card details there as well at 3 in the morning and get started and go on to the pay-as-you-go model. Okay, I would stop here for a bit if there's any questions that have come up.
No questions that I can see, but if anybody has questions, feel free to use the question function or to raise your hand. Don't see any questions yet, Suzanne.
Okay, good. Then now we're going to get over to the exciting part and actually deploy a demo application into Bluemix. This is, of course, where I have the most fun. So what I have prepared here is just a very simple to-do list application built in Node.js. So as you can see, here's all I need for it. Let's just have a quick look at the index.html so that we know what it should look like. This is it. So assembly, it's just a very simple to-do list. Let's just imagine my boss came up to me this morning and said, "Oh, our team is growing so much. I need a more efficient way to manage our daily to-dos." Okay, perfect. So I'll just have this really quick to-do application. Everybody can go in there, type in their to-dos. Once they're done, they can mark them off, and then we can also delete them should need be. Very straightforward. This is all good, and the application all works, but only on my local machine, which isn't good if Alex wants to enter a new to-do or check one off. So I want to deploy it to Bluemix. So as I said, this is here. Let's just go back. This is the application that I want to then push up to Bluemix. I'm here logged into bluemix.net, which is pretty much the front page of Bluemix. And I am already logged in, otherwise you have the little button up there to log in. And now I'm just going to jump into my dashboard. And we're just going to have a look around so that we can see what we actually need to do. So the dashboard here, of course, will remind me that whenever I'm ready to go onto the pay-as-you-go plan, I can continue to use Bluemix for free. I just have to put in my credit card details here. So that little reminder is always there and nice and easy. So now I'm in my dashboard, and as you can see, we have three general areas of it. We have the thing on the left-hand side, which gives me an overview about my different organization and spaces. That just allows me to manage my Bluemix account in a very convenient way. So organizations are, bigger hierarchical instances within Bluemix. So essentially you have a Bluemix account, and your account can have any number of organizations, and any organization can have any number of spaces. So as you can see, I have one organization here that I am in at the moment, which is called s.heidemüller@ie.ibm.com. So that is my own personal organization. Within that organization, I have three spaces, and you can see I gave them very descriptive titles. I have my demo space, then I have my production space, and then, excuse this German word there, it just means my testing space. So that is just how I separate my applications. As you can see in my demo space, there is no application running. There's just one service, mobile application security, that I put there to try out a little bit. So this is where I do all my demos. Same goes for containers and virtual machines. So this one is mostly empty. Then if I go into my production space, you will see all the applications that I have actually running in production and live. So as you can see, I have my blog there, and I have another application, which is an application which integrates with my Pebble smartwatch. So let's just have a look at this one. Just from my very quick look onto the dashboard, I can see the URL of this application. I can see that it's a Node.js application as well, and it's using four services actually. One service is auto-scaling, then it's using a cloud non-SQL database, and then it's using two Pitney Bowes services. One is reverse geocoding, which means the GPS coordinates that are being picked up by my Pebble are being converted into an actual street address, so I can then display it in that web front end there. And then I have Travel Boundary, which is a service that helps me to calculate. So I am at this GPS coordinate point right now, and I have 5 minutes time. What are the places I can reach within 5 minutes? So if I have a look at this application a little bit more detailed, I can click into it, and then I'll get a little bit more information about it. And I can see that it's running with two instances with 56 megabytes per instance. So in total, this application is consuming half a gigabyte of memory. And then I can scroll down, I can see all my services running here. And a very handy features, especially for the databases, is that I have the little button for show credentials right here. So if I click that, I can right from here get my username, my password, and the URL for that database, so I can even access it from outside with those details very quickly. And they're literally just a click away there. And then if I go up here, you can see I have the URL for my application. I can just click on it, and then I can see that my application is going here. Of course, it's going to ask for my coordinates. Now I can allow this. And yes, Safari can also use my location. And then we can see it's picking up my coordinates. We can see on the map that I'm in the office at the moment. but my Pitney Bowes account is expired at the moment, so it's not giving me the address at the moment. So, but that's not really what I wanted to show you anyway, just to show you I can from here go directly into my application as well if I want. Or I can even here, if I have my own domain that I want to bring, because as you can see, this is called shware at mybluemix.net. I can create a new root if I wanted to, and then use my own domain as well if I wanted to. As you can see, there's my own, shidemura.com. So you have the flexibility there as well. So just a little bit of how you navigate your application once it's up and running there. And let's just go back. I do not need to save my changes. How do I reset them? There we go. Sorry about that. So I go back to the dashboard. That's all good. And then the organizations, if we come back to the hierarchical structure of Bluemix, I can also be part of other organizations. So for example, you can see that we had a group project for Bluemix Europe, which is handled by Bluemix at ie.ibm.com. So I'm also part of that organization, so somebody else invited me into that. So if I jump in there, I will be taken out of my Bluemix and into someone else's, and you can see that I can take part in their applications there as well. And you have a very strict user management there as well. For Bluemix, for this Bluemix organization, I have all the rights that I need, which means I can also invite new users, I can access all the spaces and all the applications. But of course, you can also continue to give out limited access. For example, you can only invite people to certain spaces of an application. For example, if you have two teams at the moment working on two different applications, you can, for example, then let Tim and Anders work in project A, and they're only able to see space A within Bluemix. And then if you have some two other people, they will only be part of project B and therefore only see space B. So the user management is very straightforward, it's very helpful, and you can all do this here if you click on Manage Organization, and it will give you a good overview about what users you currently have and how you can add them and remove them to everything, which is very, very nice and very helpful. So that just to give you a quick overview there, let's just jump back into my own organization then, so we can actually deploy the application that we were talking about. So then we have our little navigation platform up here. So the interesting one, I think that's where Bluemix really shines, is the catalog here. So if we're going to click into the catalog, we will be put straight to it. And it starts with the so-called boilerplates. And you can think of those as kind of like empty templates for applications. There's different areas of topics that we cover. For example, there's a mobile cloud for mobile applications. We even have a mobile first service starter kit. So if you also use IBM's mobile first, you can get started there when we talk about iOS 8, for example. If you're a Node.js developer, you can also use the Node.js Cloud and DB web starter. And if we click into this one, Bluemix will then give you kind of the empty shell of where you will start developing your code. As you can see, we have the Node.js runtime here. We're also going to create a cloud non-SQL database. And then also another service that we're going to add, which is monitoring and analytics, which gives you deeper insight into your application and how it is going at the moment, to just have that ever extra level of analytics for it. And that is a free service, which is also very nice. After the boilerplates, we then just have a quick run over for the runtimes. You can of course also choose to just deploy an application without any services attached. And if I want, for example, deploy a Go application, I can just go in here, select the space, give my application a name, create it, and then I also already get the empty shell of a Hello World website in Go, so I can also then download that and start coding from there if I wanted to. That is just something you can do. Again, you don't have to do it. The way that I'm going to do it for my to-do list is, of course, I already have all the code here. So all I really need to do is to push it up to Bluemix and get it ready there. But as a to-do list has a lot of to-dos. So I need to store those somewhere. So I'm just going to go through the catalog now and look if we can find a suitable database to store my to-dos. And while we go through the catalog, we can also explore a little bit more. And we can see that we have our big amount of Watson services here, and most of them are in beta, which is in a way really good for Watson at the moment, because it means all those services are free for you to just try out and play around, and there's a lot of interesting stuff you can do there, so I can only recommend that. Then we have a category for services specific for mobile applications, for example, push notifications, or as I mentioned before, Twilo, if we talk about texting features, or now I think Twilo even announced video telephony, all that stuff sorted there for you. Then we have the next category, which are our DevOps tools. Autoscaling is one of them, and we're actually going to use it in our to-do list as well. Autoscaling just allows me to, well, scale my application based on the needs of the application. So I can dynamically enter policies in there, and I can say if my application is 80%, if one of my instances of my application is 80% used, then I want to start up a new instance of it so I can make sure that I can cater to all my customers. So, and then of course you have monitoring analytics. We have some testing tools in place, meter load impact. Then the next big category is web and application. So that is really just everything that you can really dream of is out there. We have MQ-Lite services in there, session caches and data caches, if that's what you need for your application. We have the Pitney services for geocoding. We have SendGrid if we talk about mass emailing. We even have a couple of services in there which will help you to make very intuitive user interfaces with Dreamface and React. We even have a streaming service in there with Ustream. So very exciting stuff, and I can pretty much guarantee you whatever you really need in your application, Bluemix has it in there for you somewhere. Then we have the integration services, which will help you to, one, manage your APIs with API management, and the other one's cloud integration and secure gateway, help you to set up a secure VPN tunnel to communicate with on-premise data to your Bluemix application. Then we have our big portfolio of different databases. So that is where we are going to stay here for a second, because I'm looking for a database for my to-dos. And I think I'm going to go with my cloud non-SQL database, just because it's very easy for me to work with it, and that's just how I set up my code with a non-SQL database. But I could also use a normal SQL database with IBM. There's Elephant SQL if you're looking for Postgres, and a MongoDB as well. So really, whatever you need, we have it in there. And then if we go a little bit further down, we have a couple of big data services, the security services I was talking over before, and then we have business analytics and Internet of Things. A lot of interesting stuff there as well. And if you just want to know a little bit more about something, for example, predictive modeling, you just click onto the service and you will brought into the thing, which will give you a small description of it, so you can see what does the service actually do. You can see the pricing model of it, and then you can from there even jump into the documentation. And the documentation of Bluemix really helps you to get started with everything. So this one is even called Getting Started with Predictive Modeling, and it gives you the overview about what's going to happen. It will explain to you how you can use it within Bluemix, how to access it and everything. And then there's even full tutorials here, for example, for Node.js. You have the API references to play around with it, and you can see what runtimes it is compatible with. And as you can see here, it's compatible with all the runtimes. So very good documentation that will help you out a lot there, and we have that for every service. So, but I wanted a cloud database, so I'll just scroll up again until I have my non-SQL cloud database. Perfect. So same here again. I have my descriptions. I even have a couple screenshots so I can see how my database is going to look. And then I have my pricing plan there, and I can see that I get the 20 gigabytes for free. And then I get 500,000 light API calls. Light API calls is what we are mostly read calls, and then the heavy API calls would be write and update commands. So as I can see from here, this is what I get free per month. So that is perfect for what I need for my application. So I know my application is most likely going to be free, my to-do list at least. Perfect. So I want to create this service now. I can choose what space I want it in. I'm currently doing a demo, so it needs to be in the demo space. And there's no application yet in that space, so I'll leave this service unbound for now. And now I just have to give it a name. And the name is whatever I'm referencing within my code, how I address the database. And I have that here in my manifest file. So if we just have a look in here, I'll talk a bit about the manifest file later on, but we can see that I gave my service a name, and that service is to-do minus couch minus db. So I'll just copy that, pop that over here. And now all I need to do is click create. And now Bluemix is doing the work for me of setting up the database. And I can then just wait until it's done. Doesn't take a lot of time. And as soon as it's done, I'm being brought to the dashboard for Cloud. I can launch it from here. It gives me a little bit more info. It's not what I need right now because that is all work that I could do myself, or could Bluemix do the work for me. So I'll just jump into the dashboard, and then I should be able to see that if I scroll down in Cloud Foundry, still no application, but there is my to-do database. Perfect. So now I have I have whatever I need to get started from now. So now all I need to do is I use the Cloud Foundry command line to make sure that this folder, this information here, gets pushed up to Bluemix so that my application is then up in Bluemix. So I'm going to open up my terminal and I'm going to log into Bluemix. So I use Cloud Foundry for that. CF login will connect me, and as you can see, my API endpoint is already set up with Bluemix.net. So I now just use my Bluemix credentials to log in here. And I hope I remember my password. Yeah, looks good. Perfect. And now I go through my hierarchy again. I know it's in my own organization. The space that I want is demo. So it's number 2. And now it will just confirm that I'm logged in correctly. I'm logged into Bluemix with the correct user and the correct organization and the correct space. Perfect. Now I just need to find the folder where I have my coach, and that's in work, Bluemix. Let's go over there and see where I have it. It's called to do. Perfect. And now we can see what I have in here. I'm in the right folder. I have my README at my server.js, and I have the manifest file. So now all I need to do is I type in cf push, and that is a command which will tell Bluemix or Cloud Foundry to take my local code and put it up there. So we can see a little bit what it's doing there. We can see that it's using the manifest file, and it's taking the information out of the manifest file to do its job. So we can see it's creating the application with the name I gave it. It's creating the root so I can access it. And now it's actually binding the root to the application. And then as it goes further, we can see that it's uploading the data. And then it's actually taking the service that I already created in Bluemix, and it's binding that to that application. And now it's just going to start the application up. And while that's happening in the background, normally takes about a minute or 2, it's not that long, we're going to have a look at the manifest file to see what's actually going on there. So the manifest file is kind of like the how-to file for Cloud Foundry. It will tell Cloud Foundry what I want it to do. So I have my application there. I give my application a name. Again, normal stuff. Don't use spaces. Use underscores when you can. And then I give it a host name. And the host name is always what is put in front of .mybluemix.net. That's just how we standardize it in the beginning. So you always have to make sure that your host name is unique, same as any URL has to be unique. And then I'm actually giving it the Cloud Foundry command, which means set up a node server, and I want the cloud database with it. And then I can allocate a certain amount of memory to my application. For this small application, 128 megabytes perfectly fine. And then I can mention any services that I already want to have connected there from the start. I have a CouchDB, and if I wanted to, I could already bind an auto-scaling service or monitoring analytics service there. I can if I want to, but I don't have to do it there. I can also do it from the user interface. So that is just what the manual file does. Very straightforward, very small. It's just kind of telling Cloud Foundry what to do so it's done correctly. And as we can see, while we were looking at the manifest file, Bluemix was doing its job, and we can see that my app has been started and that it even checks the health up. Everything is running. Memory is being used about half of it, which is good. So if we jump back into our dashboard, we should see our application, correct? And it's already running, perfect. So all I really needed to do was type in cf push and everything else was done for me. I have my root here. So if I click on it, I can see my website perfectly. I'll just also share it with you in the chat so you can have a look at it if you want. Chat. I don't think it opens up properly for me now. I'll just give it over to Alex. I think, yeah, it is somewhere now. I think Alex can post in the chat, or it should have happened already for you guys. So I can now enter my to-dos here. I can mark them, completed. I can delete them if I want. And I also have my option of selecting. I only want to look at done to-dos. Like a very simple, straightforward to-do application as you would imagine it to work. And it's working fine to what I need. But now, as I said, this is an application for my team, and my team is going to grow a lot in the future. So of course I want to leverage the tools that Bluemix gives me there to automatically scale my applications, which is perfect. In general, I always want to have at least 2 instances of an application. So I'm making sure that should one instance crash for one reason or another, I always have a backup one, so I'm not going into any downtime. So I'm just going to increase my number of instances, and all I do is click up the button, I save it, and now Bluemix is going to start up another application while my first one is still running. So I'm not even experiencing any sort of downtime while I'm doing this. So perfect. So while that is happening as well, I can now see that I have the option to add a service or to bind a service. The difference there is very simple. It just says adding a service means I'm going to go to the catalog and create a new service, and binding a service means I already have created the service. It's already in my Bluemix account, so I can just then bind it and connect it to my application. But I want to add a new service because I want to add auto scaling. I'm just going to use the search function up here because it's very handy. So I have auto scaling, and as you can see, it's already adding this to my application, so everything is already preloaded here. All I need to do is click create. Now Bluemix is creating the service for me and is already binding it to the application. But of course, to make that connection properly able, we need to restage it, which is fine. That's what we're going to do now. So my application is staging again. While that is happening, I can now go into my auto-scaling service and configure the policies I want for it. So yes, we can see at the moment there are no policies defined because I just created it. So I can go in here. Yes, default policy sounds good. And now I can see that I have all the options I want here. I can say I always want at least 2 instances of my application running, and I want to be able to scale it up. And the maximum amount I want are 10 instances, just for example. This is really your control. You can do whatever you want there. And the first rule I have is based on memory. So I can see that I can decide to scale out or scale in, and I want to scale out, which means increase the number of instances. If my memory utilization exceeds 80%, that's good. Then I want to up it by 1 instance. And then I also want to scale it down once the memory utilization is below a certain threshold. I personally like the 40% threshold, so I'm just going to change this here. And Then I'm just going to save it. And we can see, oops, my scaling policy was created. Just want to zoom in. Didn't work. Yeah, so my policy is created. Perfect. Now we go back to the dashboard and we can see my application is running here. It is running with 2 instances at the moment. I have my auto-scaling service and I have my cloud and database connected to it. And it is really as easy as that.